Well, hello and welcome to Mark My Words, which is a podcast offering a glimpse into the alternative paradigms that hide just beneath the surface of everyday life. And our first question will always be, what if? Now, if you can recall from the last meeting that we had, our last gathering, we discussed with Mark Cornelius, who is the author of Rut Management, the notion of what a rut actually is. And we had mentioned that we would get into something that is a little bit deeper and far more challenging for most of us. I know it is for me, is what actually is my rut? What's my rut? And we have with us, of course, Mark Cornelius, who is once again the author of Rut Management. Sorry. And he's going to take over here to kind of describe to us how we go about finding what our rut actually is. So, Mark, take the helm over here, and good morning.
Well, thank you. And I've put on my appropriate attire for this discussion, and I hope the screen sharing is working well here. So, are you seeing?
It
Okay,
is.
good. So, the question here today, it's not just about the fact that we have ruts. Okay, we all know we're in a rut, whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing. But the question is, what's my rut? And there's actually a question that goes right along with that, and I'm going to kind of tease you with this. What if I'm traveling or trekking someone else's rut? And you go, well, wait a minute. If I'm in a rut, I'm following it. I'm already following somebody else's rut, right? And no, that's not right. It's a rut. It's a path that somebody else certainly started for you, but then it becomes yours when you get into it and you start making decisions that shape the rut according to your adventure. If, on the other hand, you just get into a routine and somebody else told you to do it, like a lot of these self-help books will tell you to do, you just need to do everything I do and you'll be fine. You will know because I'm not you. I love comparing, making sure that the advice somebody's giving me is sound, but that's their rut. My rut's a little bit different than Paul's rut, right?
Absolutely. And also, Mark, I was just thinking about this as you were talking there. When you recognize that you're on a path that has been walked before, accepting that path might be a little bit difficult for some of us because we like to kind of steer our own way or whatever, and that's okay too, isn't it?
Sure is. And a rut, I mean, just to kind of to go back, because for everyone who's not been following, we veered off our rut for just a little bit because of the circumstances of our remarkable times. But a rut's just a repetitive, unchanging trajectory. It's a personal journey, and my rut is my rut, not yours, and it needs management. So the decisions, the choices that I use to determine the direction have consequences. And there's one thing very important to realize about a rut. Do you know what that is, Paul? That was a lead in for you to say, what is that, Mark?
Well, Mark, what is that?
That is the very notion that a rut needs. Hold on here, I'm leading up to this. Okay, a map.
There you go.
So, did you know your rut needs a map? And sure, I mean, some people would say, well, no, I just wake up every day and I do what I'm supposed to do, and that's it. And that's the unthinking part of it. That's the natural course of action. And that's when people wake up one day and say, I'm just doing the same thing over and over again and getting no results out of it. Well, is that true? There's two different important issues in a rut. first of all, where you're starting, your origination point, which I call my wannabe. I want to be doing this. I want to be going somewhere. I have a trip I'm taking. I'm going to the grocery store, And then you get on the road, you say, oh my gosh, which grocery store am I going to? Well, there's so many to choose from, right? Back and forth. So then there's the other side of that. Where do I want to end up? That grocery store over there, or the grocery store down the road, or maybe I'm going to the corner market. So along the way, you've got to adjust and look for that routine that works best for you. Now that means taking into consideration history, that's your historical markers. And then also there's something that happens. Sometimes people just get stuck. They're driving around, or maybe they can't make up their mind and they get stuck in what I call a pit. That's what most people mistake for a rut. And all that means is that you're stuck in a position where you can't make any decisions. And you start second guessing yourself. So you have to work through that and get out of that pit eventually and continue on your destination. Make an adventure. Look for new landmarks. Look for things that get you to that destination. And the odd thing about that is you're going to find that destination as you go may not be the one you originally thought about. There are things that you have to consider when you're going on your rut. What is it that I really want out of my position where I am? Where am I going? Who's going to be on that travel with me? And in the ultimate, you're going to get to a destination that's really a brand new place, but it's where you really intended to go in the first place if you do this correctly.
I see, and thank you, Mark, for explaining that. About when I saw that that pit there. Knowing you as well as I do, I was also thinking that that's an acronym for something, which I'm sure we'll get to. But to me, what I heard you say, among other things, is that once you're on your path, there are choices that you can make, and you have to accept the flexibility and perhaps maybe even the consequences of those choices that you make. Is that
very
am
true?
I hearing you correctly with that? And for all of our folks, obviously, of on any journey right now, especially with the times being the way that they are, sometimes we have to step aside and kind of take a little breather and see where we are. And want to go back? Do we ever have to go back and ask what our rut is again?
Every day.
Good
Well,
answer.
no, not necessarily every day if you're confident in what you're doing, but you should, and you just put it in the right perspective. Every once in a while, you need to stop and make sure you are not in a periodic interruption of trajectory. Was that an acronym for something?
I'm thinking it might be.
Yeah. Those interruptions are deceptive. You think, oh my gosh, this looks like a good place that I should start looking at. Or you know what, I'm just going to take off for a little while and not think about my rut. Okay, vacations are fine, but suddenly you find out your vacations become your vocation. And then what? So
That's a very strong point there, Mark, that you just made, because some of us have that tendency to get distracted by the very things that we want when we decide to take a little pause. Those distractions actually can lead us into perhaps maybe a different type of a pit, or a deeper pit.
Exactly. Or a course altogether unacceptable, but we just don't know how to get back on the right course. So that is your question is a good one. Is there something we need to be doing in order to assess if we are in the right place or not? Sure. The thing not to do is to deny your rut. Don't deny your rut. Don't don't come up with that vernacular, if you will, that everybody else has come up with, or oh, I'm in a rut, and think that's some sort of a curse. It's not. It's a blessing that you're in that. Just know how to make it an adventure and add to it, not veer off of it.
Boy, that's a grand point of view. It's a grand, it's an objective for most of us, because many of us, when we do feel as if we're caught in a rut, that we have a tendency to start thinking, what do we need to do to change things, to make it happen, or to make something else happen, or perhaps maybe even get a little bit more confused. And what I heard you say earlier there when you were talking about that you also have the ability to repair your rut and get back on track, stay the course. So
that's exactly
that's
right.
really it's really beneficial for all of us to recognize that we actually have that capacity to do that, as long as we stay the course and make sure that our objectives are within sight, if you will. Let me ask you something.
Sure.
Do we need to take another episode of this in order to discuss some of this rut path that you're talking about?
I think so. I mean, we promised folks that we try to keep these short and do a 15, 20-minute side. And I think we're almost there, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're correct.
So the thing that I wanted to do was get our contact information out there and make sure that people can ask questions, because that's another thing we can do is, people have questions, or if there's something that we think we need to address, there's certainly a listing of things to consider in designing and mapping out your rut. And I think that would be a good, maybe third segment to this.
Excellent. Do you mind posting your contact information today?
I would be more than happy to do that. If I'm getting a little better at this, so hold on here. Is that showing up now?
It's just grand. It's got several different ways in which someone can actually get in touch with you.
And that includes all of us. They might have a question for you, Paul. Who knows? So
you never know.
So this podcast, by the way, we decided to name it Mark My Words, but it's really about the thoughts and the critical thinking capabilities of anyone who comes to the table here. Really want to ask exactly the question you posed at the beginning: what if? So if you have a question about what if, whether it's regarding ruts or any current or past episode, or for that matter, any situation that's going on, email markcwrites@gmail.com. You can also get on our Facebook page, which there's the link right there, and you can snapshot that. I'm not going to try to talk that one out. If you're interested in any writings on this, there is a website with some great literature. Well, some people would think it's great literature. I don't know. I'll have to make that decision on their own, but go to www.rutmanagement.com and look at the options there, consider. And then also you can look at our episodes on YouTube at the channel link right down there.
Oh, that's wonderful information.
I even have, I came somewhat prepared today, come up with a, hold on here, I'm coming to, see, you can watch me trying to surf my files here, but there is a teaser I want to end with. And
wonderful.
This one, in fact, can be read by everybody. I don't know if it can, because I have a link in the middle of it. Can you read that?
Absolutely. And I do not see the link. I see there is a rut in the middle of every truth, Mark.
Well, that's something for people to think about. So are you in the middle of somebody else's rut? Make sure you make it yours. and search for the truth in that rut, or, excuse me, search for the rut in your truth, because
Oh,
it's
that's
there.
even better. That makes some, that's good fodder. Not only thinking fodder, but also perhaps maybe we'll speak a little bit more about what you've just mentioned here. How do we basically determine the truths that are in our rut? How do we admit those kinds of things? So
Just a
anyway,
parting word, rut on.
that's it exactly. Thank you, Mark. Once again, we've been listening to Mark Cornelius here and interviewing with Mark. And the book that we're talking about right now is his book, Rut Management. And I encourage everyone to basically, if they get a chance, to get in touch with Mark. Mark, thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome. And like I said, we'll come back with another episode to tie this all, or to finalize all this on ruts. And then we'll go on to something maybe even a little more controversial. I have an idea for that, but Paul, you and I will have to have a cup of coffee about that.
Sounds like a plan, Mark. Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
good day to everyone. I guess we'll just see you next time. Thank
Yeah.
you. And remember, just as Mark had suggested, rut on.